Hello, it's Monica from Crafting with Quilling Lady, and I hope you have absolutely fabulous day. In today's video, I'm going to show you 3 different techniques how to use your floral stamps to create your own design paper. If you like all those 3 cards, I really hope you'll feel inspired and enjoy today's video. I'm going to use a free gift from Creative Stamping Magazine issue 81 called Spring Flowers, and it is designed by Pinkfresh Studio. As you can see, it has lots of beautiful flowers. However, for all those techniques I'm going to show you, you can use any flower stamps from your stash, and I really encourage you to have a look what you've got at home and create something with me. So now I'm going to show you all the dies I'm going to use. I had a look at my stash again and I found those shaped word dies from Crafter's Companion, and I decided to use the one that says happy. As you can see, it has the outer edge, which creates the base for your card because it doesn't have the cutting at the very top, and then we have that word happy, which we're going to use for inlay technique as well. So I've got the base, and first we are going to start with the very first technique, and I really hope you will like it. So we're going to use heat embossing and watercolor paint. If you don't have watercolor paint, you can also use watercolor pencils. So first, I put a scrap piece of copy paper underneath, and using my anti-static bag, I'm going to stamp all my florals using Versamark ink, which is clear, transparent, and yes, we're going to do heat embossing. So for this technique, you can use your favorite embossing powder from your stash. I really like gold, especially with flowers and sentiment, so that's why I'm going to use gold embossing powder. I think it works so well with those flowers by Pinkfresh Studio. However, if you have a different one, please use it. This technique is amazing because you can actually repeat all those flowers over and over again. Just change the position of them, and yes, you do have your own design paper. As you can see, for all those cards today, I'm going to use shaped word dies. However, you can design your own panels. For example, square or rectangular panels. That will be absolutely fine as well. Just whenever you stamp your beautiful florals, just rotate them a little bit for extra dimension and interest. And this way, you can create any pattern you want. So please have a look at your stash, find some beautiful flower stamps, and create with me. The heat embossing is very nice because then whenever you use any watercolor paint or watercolor pencils, actually the heat embossing resists the paint. That's why it is so easy to do it. So you cannot really make any mistakes with it, and it always looks beautiful. Now I'm going to heat set my embossing powder, and I do encourage you to heat set your tool for about 10 seconds before you move it to your paper. And it's always a good tip, whenever you see the powder melting, just move your heating tool. Now I'm going to use Derwent paints, and these are very beautiful. I used them in my previous video where I created a wedding card with beautiful stamps from Creative Stamping Magazine issue 111, and if you haven't seen that video, the link is in the top right corner. As you can see, I'm using my water brush to move and spread the paint around. To be honest, these paints dry really quickly on the palette, so that's why I had to use lots of water to activate them and move them around, but that is absolutely fine. What's really good about heat embossing, that it actually creates a line that's very tricky to go over. So first I put some water inside of some of the flowers, and then I added paint, and this way you've got absolutely stunning watercolor effect on your design paper. So if you haven't tried the technique, I really hope you will do it because it is so easy to do. Very fast, beautiful, and you always get a stunning look. So when this is finished, I'm going to dry it a little bit, and you can always use your heat tool if you want, or you can just leave it for, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes to dry. But whenever you use a heat tool, I do recommend to heat set it from both sides. Now I'm going to cut off the top panel, and to be honest, we can use the leftover for extra dimension, and that's exactly what I'm going to do before I assemble the whole card together on the base. So even if you have some heat embossing here, that doesn't really matter. We're going to cover it anyway. So yes, this one will be ready, but first I'm going to use that happy inside cutting die, and I'm going to cut my inlay. And it's always a good idea to use your low tack tape, because we don't really want that die to move when you put it through a die cutting machine. And what's really good about any of those elements, that actually the inside of A and those P, they are pretty big elements, so it is easier to find them. However, with some of the dies you do have small elements, but please keep them, because we are going to create an inlay technique. Now I'm going to die cut the same word happy with black, and this way we're going to have that drop shadow effect. So yes, you can use that technique for literally anything, even when you use your nesting dies in any shape you want. And if you haven't seen my other cards where I use star nesting dies, the link is in the top right corner. So as you can see, I wanted to make sure that everything is professionally finished. That's why I use my scissors. And now it is time to put all the elements together. And as you saw, I put my liquid glue literally all over the base, and this way we are going to put the outer line first, then all those small pieces, and then our drop shadow element with that word happy. So far it is fine, but something is missing. So here is our card base. As you can see, it opens at the top, and again we're going to use liquid glue to put all those elements together. And what's really good about using any liquid glue, you do have time to maneuver all those elements. So for example, with the inside of A and P, you do have time to move them, and this is very crucial. Now I'm going to use Happy Birthday Swirl Sentiment die set from Tonic Studio, and all the names are in the description down below if you're interested. And if you use any links which are affiliate, that really helps my channel, so I really thank you if you use them. As you can see, I die cut Birthday 4 times 3 out of 300 GSM white stamping card and 1 from black. This one comes as a 1 die, so if you have any big dies like this, yes, you can cut them apart. I mean, the die cuts you created with your card. And for all those sentiments, I actually use scraps from my stash. I do have one drawer with lots of fussy cut elements and some scraps, so I keep them there. And whenever I try to fussy cut small elements or stamp small elements, I always reach for those elements. Now I'm going to use clear overlay from Spectrum Noir, and this way it's going to add a little bit more sparkle and interest on my card. So what do you think about this first technique when you use heat embossing and watercolor paint? Please let me know in the comments down below. I also had to add some gold gems here and there, and the card is finished. It stands proudly on the flat surface. There is lots of space to write your message inside. And yes, our first technique is done. Now we can move to number 1, which is non-line coloring with alcohol markers. For this technique, you can use any alcohol markers from your stash. I decided to use some Illustrator alcohol markers from my stash, and I've got sketching and tints. But first, I'm going to use Distress Oxide ink to stamp my flowers. And as you can see, I'm stamping off 3 times before I stamp on my panel. And this way I'm going to get very light color, because in my stash I don't really have any light Distress Oxide ink. So this is the way. If you don't have it, as I mean, so yes, you can stamp off like 3 to 4 times, depends on the color, and then you can stamp on your base to see the very light outline. And this is very crucial, because whenever you want to create no-line coloring, we don't want those hard edges, especially with black. However, if you want to create a panel with black outline, that will be totally fine. Just make sure you use ink that goes well with your color medium. So for example, if you want to use alcohol markers, you have to use alcohol-proof black ink. And if you want to use aqua markers, again, you have to use watercolor-proof ink, and this way it will be beautiful as well. However, I haven't done no line coloring in such a long time. That's why I decided to choose it for my second technique. As you see, I'm trying to put two different colors on one color, so I've got some highlights and shadows, and this way whenever you follow your stamped image in a light color, no one will ever see. And for this technique you can also use pencils as well. They will work perfectly fine with the same Distress Oxide ink or literally any ink you've got in your stash. Just make sure it is very light when you stamp it. I wanted to keep those cards very simple, elegant and clean. I really struggle with those elements on my cards because I always go with bold and vivid colors. So it was a challenge for me, but I really hope I managed to do it. If you agree, please let me know. And I wonder, how often do you use flowers in your card making? Do you like to use them, or maybe you've got other elements to fill your designs? Please let me know what is your favorite. And as I said before, in this video, I'm using a free gift from Creative Stamping magazine issue 81, which is very old. But I really wanted to try something that I haven't in a very long time, and I haven't used that stamp set before. So I thought it would be a good idea. And when I was creating those 3 cards, I thought to myself, I do have that drawer with lots of white scrap piece of card. So I'm really considering stamping all those flowers and fussy cut them for my future projects. Because why not? I do have lots of those small elements and I think they'll be perfect. I wonder, do you do that in your card making? Do you stamp your images and make sure they are ready when you want to create some cards? Or do you just create your cards when you need them? Now I'm going to use that happy and I'm going to do the inlay technique. For this card, I thought I want to distress some of the edges, not all. So I didn't really use any ink here. I just used what was left over on my ink blending tool. And this way, I'm not wasting any of my craft supplies. Now it is time to use our liquid glue. And as usual, I've got my one and only magic glue, liquid glue, because what's really good about it, it is a bookbinding glue and it dries clear. So it is perfect for any card making. I wonder, what is your favorite adhesive for very quick and beautiful cards? Please let me know in the comments down below. So if you see all those elements here, do you think I succeeded with no line coloring, or do you think pencils would be a better option? And again, I've got that black card with the wet happy and we're going to create that drop shadow effect again. I think it adds so much to inlay technique, and to be honest, this one could be eclipse as well, which is like die cut and then put back on your background again. So actually, I use so many techniques in this video. I really like how those cards turned out because they are not the same cards I always create. They are a little bit different. So when this is ready, it is time for a sentiment, and I'm going to use Tonic Studio die, which I'm going to show you in a second. But first I'm going to adhere our front panel on our card base. And what's really good about any happy birthday or birthday wishes, which I'm going to use in this case, if you have a longer die, you can cut the right side, or like in this case, I'm going to cut the bottom off. So yes, you can do it. And for my last card, I'm going to use an edgeable sentiment die. So you can use any dies from your stash and literally cut them apart when they are die cut. And I do encourage you to do it because this way you can mix and match all the elements from your stash. And now I decided to add clear overlay literally everywhere. I couldn't resist. I had to add that sparkle, and I really think it adds so much to the whole card. If you want, you can also use Wink of Stella if you have it, but I don't, and I only have clear overlay, and I think it really does the job with card making. I'm really sure it is so pretty in real life. It is such a shame that you can't really see the sparkle on the camera, but in real life it is so pretty. Now it is time for technique number 3, and we're going to do some stamping with aqua markers. I haven't done that in a very long time, so I thought today is the day. I use 300 GSM watercolor card, and I'm going to use aqua markers, Tricolour markers from Spectrum Noir. As you can see, I keep them in my case, and I'm going to stamp all those florals with those beautiful Tricolour aqua markers. If you want, you can take a screenshot of the pens I use. However, you can use anything you've got in your stash. Even watercolor markers, zig markers, aqua markers from different brands, literally whatever you want. And a very big tip for you: whenever you want to stamp with those aqua markers, don't hold them at 90 degrees. I'm trying to do it at, let's say, 20 degrees, because I want the broad tip to actually touch all the lines on my stamping. And this way you can use as many colors as you want. And that's what's really amazing about this technique. You can use more than one color, and you don't really need any special dabbers or ink blending tools to do it. You literally just put a nib on your stamp, and yes, we do have that beautiful image ready with all those colors. And what I really wanted here, with some of the flowers, I use, for example, orange and red, and this way you do have those beautiful shadows and highlights at the same time, which is very amazing. And I wonder, how often do you use aqua markers or watercolor markers in your card making? Maybe you do have your favorite brand, so please let me know. What is it? I'm really curious. So far, I really like those Tricolour markers by Spectrum Noir, but if you have a better one, please let me know so I can try them out. So when this is ready, you can actually fill the whole space. And yes, you can use the same technique on bigger panels as well. As I said before, if you have any nesting dies or even circular cutter, you can create any base in any shape. And this way you have your own design paper. Now I'm going to spray some water on top, and this way we're going to have that watercolor look. I haven't done that in such a long time, so I thought today is the day. And to be honest, I wasn't disappointed. And if you want, you can control the water on your design. You can add less or more, whatever you want. And it is very unique because no one will ever create the same design paper. I really hope you like it so far. Now it is time to cut that happy, the same with black, and we're going to assemble all those elements on the card base. You know how to do it, so you don't have to watch me how to create the card. So when this is ready, yes, we're going to use the same drop shadow technique on our card base, and it will be nearly done. But there is always something to add, and yes, we do have to add that sentiment, and this time I'm going to use Birthday Wishes. It is an edgeable die, so yes, I can cut the wishes off. Super simple. And I do encourage you, use whatever is in your stash, mix and match all those beautiful supplies, because you can create literally anything you want. You don't always have to stick with one brand for one project. Now it is time to add our clear overlay on top of the word birthday. And again, if you want to check any of the supplies, I left some of the links in the description down below. Now it is time to add some gold gems, and the card is complete. I really wonder, what do you think? Do you think that adding some gems adds to the cut, or maybe it is a little bit too much? Now you can see all three cuts side by side, and I wonder which one is your favorite, which technique have you tried, or maybe there is one that you haven't, and if you haven't, I really hope this video inspires you to try something new. Have a wonderful day and happy crafting! See you in my next video. Bye!